Hello, everybody. Well, the 2024-2025 college football season is officially in the books. We have a national champion. The winners of the college football playoff, the first 12-team playoff, is the Ohio State Buckeyes. They beat the Notre Dame Fighting Irish by a score of 34-23. And I was really close. I predicted Ohio State to win 35-24. So close. But you know what? I'm proud of that prediction. Close enough. I'm happy with that. So, first 12-team playoff. Ohio State wins the first 14 playoff way back in 2014. I guess that would have been the 2015 playoff. And then here they win the first 12-team playoff. So there's a little bit of a trend going on there. That's a nice little caveat that you can add to all of this. So, where do we start? Ohio State, pretty dominant in the game. Notre Dame comes out first, and they just hog up the entire first quarter, 9 minutes and 45 seconds on 18 plays, 75 yards. They strike first. Then Ohio State gets the ball, and they really unleash everything that we predicted in the second quarter. They go into half 21-7, and look at some of these stats that I wrote down at the half, and you look at the difference between production here. Will Howard for Ohio State, 14 of 15, 144 yards, 2 touchdowns. Well, on the flip side, Riley Leonard for Notre Dame, 5 of 9, 46 yards, and he had the sole rushing touchdown in that first half for the Fighting Irish. So, also, some first half stats. Ohio State, 231 total yards on 15 first downs. Notre Dame, less than half of that, 93 total yards, 6 first downs. Really, Ohio State pulls away, and they do so on the back of Ole Miss transfer Quinshon Judkins. Let me tell you something about Quinshon Judkins real quick. This kid from rural Alabama, he graduates high school in 2022. 2021 would have been his last high school season. So he kind of goes under the radar there. The University of Alabama there, Nick Saban kind of overlooks him. A lot of the coaches look at him. I don't really know who all was recruiting him. But Lane Kiffin sees this kid, and he sees a lot of potential in him. And he really sees Quinshon as a valuable asset to that Rebel offense, especially coming off of, you got Matt Corral coming out, going to the draft. You have other players leaving. You got to have somebody to come in to really pick up the pace and fly under the radar, and that's exactly what Quinshon did. If you remember, Lane Kiffin, there's a picture out there where when he was recruiting Judkins there, he was at that last state championship game, the Alabama state championship game, where he's sitting out there in the cold up in the stands supporting his recruit. And Quinshon comes in, and puts up massive numbers in the SEC, just took the college football world by storm there. Now, obviously, in 2023, he didn't fly under the radar anymore, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And there are some issues there. I think especially later on in the season, maybe some locker room issues. I don't really know what all went on. I'm sure there were some personal family things with Quinshon. He gets in the transfer portal. Ohio State picks him up. And starting out at Ohio State, a lot of us expected him to sit on the bench, not even, being the starter, that he may not even make as much as he would have made if he would have stayed at Ole Miss, given that Ole Miss, opened the pocketbook up and give him what he really wanted. But also that he would be, second fiddle to the starting running back. He really picked it up, especially in this playoff when they really needed him to come in clutch. And today, as I'm recording this, the national championship just ending here. Quinshon Judkins, that kid from Alabama that goes to Ole Miss, that puts up big numbers, heightens his brand, his name, goes to Ohio State, wins a national championship, completes the goal that he set out for himself. He gets 11 carries, 100 yards. That's a 9.1 average yards per carry, 2 touchdowns. His longest run was 70 yards. You can't ask for much more out of him. He did have 1 receiving touchdown as well. 2 catches, 21 yards there. For him, that's the dream scenario, right? You transfer to a school and win the championship, and you would assume he's going to be, out the door. I don't know what his draft stock looks like. He may hang around another year, and why not, right? But for Will Howard, he had an incredible game as well. 17 to 21, 231 yards, 2 touchdowns. His completion percentage was 81 yards. And this is a guy, as being a senior, going to be in the draft as well. He ends the season with 3,779 yards, 33 touchdowns, an 89.5 quarterback rating. I believe if that's not first, that's top 3, top 5 in the entire country. He had a huge day, and much of the same. He's been doing that all season. And for Ohio State, you look at this team, you got Oregon coming into the conference. You've got Penn State. You've got Indiana. You've got all that power that's in the Big Ten this year. And I thought Oregon was going to take over. I thought they were going to win the whole thing. No, Ohio State proves in that playoff game that no. This is our conference. I don't care. You can come in here. You can play along, but we are still the dominants. We are still at the very top. They proved that. They destroyed Oregon. And coming into this game, I knew that Notre Dame wouldn't be able to stop this Ohio State offense, or they wouldn't be able to stop them enough to be able to produce enough points out of it. Notre Dame struggled. Notre Dame didn't play a bad game. I'll get through some of the team stats in the game comparison here in just a moment, but Notre Dame did not play a bad game. Did not play necessarily a sloppy game. They just got outmatched. They got outplayed, and it was Ohio State's game. Ohio State did not blow this team out, although it looked like that. Notre Dame kept fighting. They scored there at the end. They made it a little bit chippy, but it ended about exactly like I thought it would. And Ohio State, they did what they had to do. They've got all that strength. They got all that power. They got a great receiving core as well. And if we take a look at some of these stats, you'll see, it's kind of closer than you realize. So if we compare the two teams here, Ohio State, 445 total yards to Notre Dame's 308. And right here, passing yards, pretty close here. 231 for Ohio State, 255 for Notre Dame, and obviously rushing yards on the back of Quinshon Judkins, 214 rushing yards to Notre Dame's 53. Now, Will Howard also had 57 yards rushing as well, so you have to give him credit. And Henderson had 49 of that. So just a great, running game for Ohio State. In the red zone, Ohio State made it to the red zone 5 times. They scored 5 times. Notre Dame made it to the red zone 2 times. They scored once. Time of possession, 32-25 for Ohio State, 27-35 for Notre Dame. And Ohio State did have that one fumble there late in the game that they did lose. Sacks, that Ohio State defensive front was pressuring Riley Leonard all game long. And they didn't get to him but twice. So here's what people are still going to say. And I know Ohio State fans, and if there's any of you listening, I know you're happy about this. But what you're not happy about is you still lost to Michigan. Now, honestly, if I was an Ohio State fan, I say this, I don't know what that would be like. But at this point, I'm winning the Natty. I don't really care if we lost, even if we lost to our rival, because they did terrible this year. and we're on top of the mountain. That's all that matters to me. I think that's all that should matter to you. For Notre Dame, do not enter a conference. There's no reason that you should be joining a conference anytime soon. You see, you can make it to the national championship game. You can be competitive throughout the season. They stumbled there in week 2. They picked it back up, and they played very well. And they were a favorite of mine. I mean, honestly, after they just beat up on Georgia, a depleted Georgia team. But another funny thing about this, as we look at the final college football playoff bracket here, number 8, number 7, the number 8, number 7 seeds are the ones to win the conference champions. The teams that got the first round bye lost in the first game that they played in. But look at this, and we try to come up with a verdict or a grade, if you will, on what we view this playoff, this new 12-team format. Obviously, we have issues. The seeding thing is a mess. The bye thing is a mess. The conference champions, I think a lot of us are in agreement that, we should kind of do it like we did before. You still have conference champions, but don't make that the determining factor on who gets the byes, okay? Just make the first 4 best teams get the first round bye. And on the flip side, there are other people that think there shouldn't even be byes, that there's a way to do it without having a bye week. There are a lot of things that can happen. I don't know. There's some talks about some tweaks happening for next season's playoff. But this is what we've got. And it's kind of messy, and we knew that from the get-go there, from that first ESPN Tuesday night special where they went over the rankings the very first time back in November with the weird seeding thing that they did and projecting the byes and all that. I think we had some great games. I think the regular season was big. I think there was a lot of great matchups. There were matchups, especially later in the season, that normally nobody would care about. And we're talking about games all the way up into the teens. And we're talking about games for those teams instead of, top 5, top 8 matchups. We're talking about top 20 matchups, middle ways through the season, 2/3 of the way through the season. I think the regular season mattered. I think it was exciting to watch, and I think it's going to be exciting in the future as well. College Game Day did big numbers. There's a lot of games that did big numbers rating-wise. People love college football. And, even with the NIL, even with the transfer portal, all this crazy new things, the crazy new things that are, flooding the sport, I think it's still great. I think that this season was a success. We'll talk about the SEC in a different video. We'll talk about the Big Ten. We'll rate all the conferences. I'll give them a rating, a grade on the year. A lot of other content. Just kind of looking back on this season and really giving a deep dive judgment on what we think happened. Who did well? Some memorable games, memorable moments. We got all that coming up. But for now, Ohio State, winners of the 2025 College Football Playoff National Championship. They beat Notre Dame. Final score, 34-23 in Atlanta. So thank you for watching, everybody. We will see you in the next video. Got a lot of great content up ahead, so stay tuned. Subscribe and like if you like college football, if you like sports, and you want more. So, till next time, see you.